Hello and welcome to this session introducing some of our project leaders at the Paris Peace Forum, innovative solutions to step forward, inspiring solutions to step forward. So why do we showcase solutions here at the Paris Peace Forum? Because we believe in changing the way global governance is done, and we believe that some of that involves, high-level normative discussion, but a lot of that involves concrete action at the ground level, working with people who are confronting some of the problems of this world, on climate, on inequalities, and on all the topics that we cover at the forum. And so we're delighted to have this session today to showcase some of these 7 solutions that we think are worth talking about a bit more, and so that we selected to show their work at the Paris Peace Forum. So let me start by introducing my co-moderators, or my commentators here on stage. Trisha Shetty is the president of our steering committee. She founded the She Says NGO. She's an Obama fellow. And those of you who are familiar with the Paris Peace Forum will have seen her many times in previous years. We're delighted to have her on stage. Edna Jaime founded and leads Mexico Evalúa, a leading Mexican think tank. She's part of our executive committee, and she's also been part of the people who've created the Paris Peace Forum and has been another huge supporter of our project leaders since the beginning. So thank you so much, Edna, as well. So let me say a couple of words about the format today, and then there's going to be an opportunity for you in the audience to get involved as well. So we're going to have 7 project leaders come on stage today. Each of them is going to have 4 minutes to tell you about their work, tell you about their solution, pitch their work to you. And then there's going to be 4 minutes for feedback, questions and answers, offers of support. We'll start with Edna and Trisha, who are going to kind of comment the pitch and give some feedback. And they may give you in the audience the opportunity to ask questions. We'll be on strict timers, so please keep your questions really brief, but feel free to jump in, and we'll have a rapid-fire Q&A session during those 4 minutes. And then the timer will be up, the next project leader will come on stage, and we'll do it all over again. The other thing is, because we want you all here in the audience to be able to offer help, to support the project leaders who are presenting their work today, we have an opportunity for you to do so via your phones with a web app that should show up on the screen very soon. There'll be a link that you can go to and a code that you can enter. And once you do that, we ask you to just give your name, give your email, and offer whatever help you want to offer to the solution leaders. This won't show up here on the stage, so don't worry if you don't see anything, but our team will share all your kind offers of support with them. So hopefully the link is going to show up soon, and then you'll be able to log in on your phones. There we go. So you can see the link here, www.menti.com, and then you enter the code 67773891. I think you can all see it. If you can do the QR from a distance, that works as well. Voilà, so this is it for my introduction. I'll introduce our first speaker today, Christian Hugonnet, who runs the label Qualité Sonore from the Semaine du Son. Welcome on stage, Christian.
Hello, everybody. I'm supposed to speak in English, but I had the opportunity to talk in French. So please, I'm going to say a few words in French. I've got a good translation, so I can do so. Thank you very much. En français, vous dire que nous sommes dans un monde qui est terriblement rétinien. On ne fait que regarder le monde.
We are in a world that is very based on the eyes, and we don't pay as much attention to what we're hearing. And our perception of the world is influenced by sound. And I want to help people to better see the world. Microsoft said that the world has to be heard better in order to perceive it better. And so there was this idea with the Week of Sound together with UNESCO, which is now 20 years old, to launch a label for sound quality. The idea behind this was to ensure that sounds are not too compressed. All the sounds that we hear today on platforms nowadays, whether on Netflix or on television or on radio, no matter where they are on media outlets, or in albums, we decided to create a label that would allow us to limit overcompression. This is a sound that is completely compressed. The sounds that we hear today, the sounds that you hear on all of your devices as well, means that we crush the sound and we push it up in order to allow for this sound to be heard above ambient noise and in any situation of noise. And by overcompressing this sound, this can end up ruining your ears, and this can also play a very important role in the hearing neurons, which are up in the cerebral cortex. We never would imagine that this is the case. We proved this on guinea pigs just a few months ago, and we showed that we need these we don't have these micro silences, which means that we're constantly attacked by the sound, and this ends up removing these these safety barriers that our neurons have. And now we have an entire generation of young people who have been listening to the sound their entire life. So this label that we have started was launched with the help of the foundation Écoutez Voix, and also with the direct partnership of Universal Music France. And they agree that the sound is too compressed, can affect our hearing. What we'd like to do today, together with Universal and also Amplify and the Institute of Hearing, is to create a label that would allow to create albums and to have a sound that respects our hearing in all of its dimensions. And if we're able to do this, that means that we will have won. So this is a label that is for music and also for spoken word, for radio, for television, and in all sectors of activity, in order to avoid that in this world that we live in today, that we can also, everything that we hear through these devices can be digested well. It's very important to consider this idea, because this can really affect and destroy our hearing ability.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Christian.
Sorry, I remind the audience, if you have any support to offer Christian, please use this link. I pass the floor now to Trish Annette.
Hello, it's really a pleasure and honor to be here, and with all the project leaders, I really feel very proud of all of you. You know, I'm very interested in this project because I've never thought that my hearing health could be at risk. But you know, my question is, I think it's very important, but have you talked with authorities? Because, you know, I am a policy person, I work for a think tank, so I'm very interested in knowing if this project can scale in public policy.
Je crois que la Tunisie fait partie de ces pays d'Afrique.
I think that this is very important in countries in Africa, especially in rural areas. The people know that listening one another is a very important notion. So within Paris Peace Forum, listening to one another and allowing for a bit of silence in order to be able to hear what the other person is saying is a very important notion. We are often in a world where we speak a lot, but we don't speak to each other. And this also comes because we are submerged in sounds that are constantly around us. So I think we've also realized that we need to have this sound relationship. This is very important. And this is also something that we don't want to see disappear from our societies. We're going to continue to work just as we have done today. Today, if I look up my phone, I know that I'm not going to, if I feel my phone ring, I'm not going to answer right away. And this person is going to be able to listen to the message when they want and answer when they want. And I think this is an essential issue, because at an international level, we aren't speaking to one another anymore. So over the week of sound of UNESCO, we want to raise awareness for this issue. And it's important to maintain this notion as well. And this is also an issue for audiobooks as well.
Merci beaucoup, Christian. C'est clair. Vous avez toute confiance de votre projet. Ça, c'est.
We have a lot of confidence in your problem, in your project.
I'm assured by that. I understand well how hearing loss is a problem and can cause disability. En fait, ma question, pour les personnes qui ont déjà une disabilité.
For people that already have a disability, what are you thinking of doing for these people? If someone already doesn't hear well, is there something that takes into account these people that have this disability? Yes. The idea is to avoid having more people that lose their hearing, because the world that loses its hearing is a world that loses everything, that isn't going to be able to communicate. So we need to be able to protect our ears.
I understand how it can stop disability. My question, c'est les personnes who already are disabled. Does this take into account a dimension to help them?
Il y aura le label
There's going to be this label that will allow to ensure a quality of sound. And this will allow to make people more conscious of their hearing and pay attention to it as well, which we don't have today. So it's a sort of warning, and to ensure that we have good sound that protects our ears, and this will be important for the world of tomorrow as well, in order to protect against dementia and other issues of not being able to adapt to society. And this is why the project is very important. Thank you very much. Christian, we'll see you soon. You can leave the microphone here.
So next up on stage is Samer Saliba, Head of Practice at the Mayor's Migration Council, who's going to tell us about his work there. Welcome on stage, Samer.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. So today, there are over 100 million people displaced from their homes due to conflict and persecution worldwide, more than at any point in our humanitarian history. And at the same time, as many as 1 billion people could be forced from their homes due to the growing climate crisis in the next 30 years. But while ongoing conflict and our changing climate are crises, displacement and the migration that it causes doesn't need to be. And the reason for this is that, like all of you in the majority of the world, most migrants and refugees don't live in camps or in rural areas, but in towns and cities like Paris or Beirut or Medellin in Colombia. And city governments around the world, in some cases unlike other actors, I won't name names, are more than happy to open their doors to welcome migrants and refugees because they understand the opportunities and the benefits that these communities bring to cities. If given proper support, migrants and refugees can contribute to more cohesive communities, can serve as frontline or care economy workers, or they can be standing where I'm standing as the kid of refugee parents from Lebanon, doing work on a global scale. The problem is, as of yet, city governments don't have proper international or national support to fully realize these opportunities. In fact, of 25% of international humanitarian aid committed to local organizations, only 3.1% has actually made it that far. So the Mayor's Migration Council launched the Global Cities Fund for Migrants and Refugees, a 2021 Paris Peace Forum Scale-Up project, and a Fast Company world-changing idea to directly channel international donor resources to city governments around the world for these cities to implement their own projects of their own design to benefit their communities, including migrants, refugees, and marginalized host communities within this city. We started with 5 cities and 1 million. We're now at 21 cities and counting, and about almost 8 million. And these cities are supporting thousands of migrants and refugees, from Beirut, who has launched their first ever municipal health care clinic, which vaccinated over 2,000 Palestinians, Syrians, and Lebanese within the city, to Medellin, who has housed over 300 Venezuelan families, given them permanent housing, and most importantly, has received direct funding support to continue their project outside of the Global Cities Fund. Because the Global Cities Fund funds cities that are uniquely positioned to benefit these communities. And in doing so, these cities are building the case to continue these actions and make progress towards global goals. We never grant cities twice because that's like giving them an umbrella to wait out a hurricane. Instead, they continue to receive direct support. But the bigger problem is that the system is broken. Those best placed to build a more inclusive world are not receiving the resources they need to do so at scale. The fund is not the solution. It's a demonstration of the bigger solution. And what we're doing is hoping that we can really reform the bigger humanitarian development system to put money not in the hands of national governments, not in the hands of international organizations, not in the hands necessarily of UN agencies. All of those actors are a part of the solution, but the real driving force behind the implementation should be city governments and their local partners. So if you have money, give it to cities and their local partners. If you have power, use it to amplify the actions of these local actors and the voices of migrant and refugee communities. And if you have humanity, give welcome to migrants and refugees in your own city and ask your city government to do the same. I promise you, they make amazing neighbors. Thank you.
I really like this initiative. I think it's most needed. I'm Mexican, and we have flows of immigrants that are not well protected and are not well welcome. But my question is, how do you select the cities? Thinking about Mexico City was selected, but I thought about the border cities like Tijuana, that I think they need the support more than Mexico City. And the other one, can you give us an example of a program designed by a city in this first group?
In the first group, I'll give you the example of Mexico City. So as you mentioned, Mexico City was one of our first 5 cities when we started off as a $1 million fund. We were very happy to select them through actually an independent selection committee, which helped us identify what we call, and our executive director, Vittoria, who's in the crowd, calls the first 5 lighthouses of the bigger solution that we're trying to drive forward. So this is not a competition. The cities that apply for the Global Cities Fund, all of which are worthy of funding to implement their projects, are demonstrating a need for funding that they don't yet have. But in order to push the bigger system forward and drive the systematic change that we're talking about, we need cities that are really well placed now to demonstrate how cities around the world can use this money in an effective way. I often say, give cities money and then step back and watch what happens. We gave Mexico City $200,000. They use that to give money directly to migrants and refugees, many of whom are coming from Central America into Mexico City. But then they also used it to enhance their own internal systems and have 3 secretarías de Ciudad de Mexico coordinate internally for the first time ever. The Secretary of Health, the Secretary of Economy, and the Secretary of Social Inclusion, in order to address this problem, because they know that it's not just a problem for today for Mexico City, but it's a problem in the future. For $200,000, we may have really changed the course of Mexico City's governance on inclusive issues.
Thank you. You did what we ask of most people, is to have very clear asks from the audience. So thank you for that. 2 questions. You mentioned you all have found a way to directly channel money to the local representatives. So could you elaborate a bit more on what was the barrier and how you managed to hack it when the biggest foundations don't seem to be able to do that? And second, in terms of storytelling, I've spent time in Poland of late to see the camps that's welcoming people from Ukraine. And when I was speaking yesterday to Nadia, and she was talking about the camp she was in, we could instantly see the discrepancy based on religion, color, skin, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk of refugees, the truth is there's a hierarchy. So how are you also making sure that you're able to address the discrimination, the xenophobia, the Islamophobia that usually is what refugees, people with refugee status, are confronted by when it comes to local communities?
Well, first of all, we keep them out of camps because that's not a solution to the problem. That's a temporary fix that originated from the international humanitarian response and the history around that. But Trisha, imagine you're a donor, and for all of your history, you've been only granting to international agencies, UN agencies, and you have no idea how to grant to a local organization or a local city government because this just hasn't been the norm. It stems way back from the history of humanitarianism as a colonial or a missionary type of approach to responding to people's needs. Okay, I'll tell you, Trisha, don't worry about that. Grant to us first. We will manage the risk, we will manage the projects, and at the end of the day, we will prove to you that this city government is capable of receiving these grants directly, because we will do it on your behalf, and then we'll take a step back, and then you come in and grant directly to them yourselves. So we had Barranquilla as a city that we granted to. We gave them, again, $200,000 to help over 100 people find formal employment. And now, from the Hilton Foundation, they've just received a grant of over $1 million for 2 years to continue that project. And to get your question quickly on social cohesion, you're not going to address social cohesion by avoiding the issue. All of these cities are not having individual humanitarian responses. They're having whole of community approaches that benefit refugees, migrants, and Colombians or Mexicans or Lebanese at the same time. And those are the kind of solutions that we need, as we actually talked about in a session in yesterday's panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samer. Such a pleasure to hear about your work and the amazing way you're changing the aid system. Again, a reminder for the audience, because some of you have just joined us, you can support all of the project leaders that are presenting their work on stage. We have an online link. You can offer your email address and whatever help you want to help, and we'll put you in touch with them, and they'll be able to follow up with you. Next up on stage today is Orshi Dobe, who represents the OECD.ai project. Welcome, Orshi.
Should I start? Thank you very much. I'm Orshi Dobe from the OECD AI Observatory project, and today I'm here to talk about our AI Incidents Monitor. So why is this project timely? As you know, artificial intelligence is here now, and it's a very important part of our everyday routines. So I'm sure you also used an AI-driven product today. You might have used a machine learning-based translation system to talk to participants here who are fluent in another language, or you use your virtual assistant to help you wake up, or you might have used an AI-driven navigation app to come here and navigate Paris traffic. And this is very important because AI is actually reshaping our societies and economies, and it is bringing amazing opportunities, but also comes with tremendous risks. And unchecked AI can create real harm. So I'm sure you've seen in the news, for example, hiring algorithms tend to discriminate against minorities and women, or self-driving cars already causing accidents. And these events are what we call AI incidents here at the OECD, when AI systems are causing intended or unintended harm to people and the planet. And they are rapidly rising every day. So our research shown an exponential growth in the number of AI incidents globally. And failure to track and monitor these incidents and address these risks properly can not only cause a crisis in trust in these AI technologies, but it can also lead to over and under regulation or stifle innovation. And this is what we're trying to avoid, and this is what we're trying to help with our AI Incidents Monitor, or AIM, that we're currently working on. So what is this monitor? Basically, currently AI incidents are only available in news and academia, as regulations such as the EU AI Act is still underway. So basically, we really try to create an evidence base to help policymakers and other decision makers create more informed decisions around these risk management regulations. And how are we doing that? So we're actually using AI to study AI. We have a machine learning-based a system that scrapes the web for these news articles that contain AI incidents, and also classify them based on industries and locations. And this is really important to really understand where and how AI causes harm currently. And this is just the first step. So in the long run, we really are going to try to use this monitor to help companies, organizations, civil society report these incidents and have a more structured, standardized way to have a better overview of how these incidents occur. And so here at the OECD, we mainly help governments create better policies for better lives. But this monitor is really also for you and me, for everyday people, to create safer AI systems and to understand how these AI systems cause harm, and in the long run, hopefully help the development of these systems to be more trustworthy and safe. So just as a final sentence, I would really urge you to get in touch with us, AI at oecd.org, or visit the AI Observatory and let us know what you think. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
I would want to know if anyone from the audience has a question. But my quick
Est-ce qu'il y a des
question,
questions?
perhaps you're going to hate this question, is I'm curious to know the gender profile and the race profile of the coders who's made this AI. Do you have statistics for me on that? The people who've built this AI program, what is the gender profile?
You mean the AI monitor?
Yeah, the people who are coding this.
Yeah,
Do you have the statistics?
I actually don't have those statistics, but I do agree that it's very, very important to have more diversity in working in AI, because in general, how these systems are created and how the databases are created is very much influenced by the training data and also the developers. So
Just
yeah.
a note, if we could actually have that information that lets us know who are the coders behind the system, it instantly highlights that you've already taken into account the gender bias, the race bias that people of color, women face usually when it comes to AI. So that would be
That's
great.
a really good point. Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations for the project and the initiative. You know, and I would like to try to understand better what the project is. I'm not very qualified for this new technological algorithms, all this new stuff. So, and I want to come back home and tell my family why this initiative is going to change our lives. If you can tell it in a few words, it will be very helpful.
Yes, so as I said, the main aim of this project is really to help policymakers create smarter policies, because they are sometimes in your shoes as well. The AI industry is in such a fast-paced development process that it's really, really hard to keep up. So for example, with the AI Policy Observatory, we're really trying to help you, but as well as national governments, to keep up with all of these fast changes.
What are you expecting from authorities and from government using your evidence? What are you expecting to
Sorry,
reach?
could you repeat? To use...
What are you expecting from government officials who use your evidence? What is expected? That they regulate better? That
Yes.
they... okay.
So, so for example, a lot of risk management regulation is now trying to come up with these risk categories, what we think a high-risk system is, what characteristics we should use to determine that. And that's not so evident, and we currently don't really have the suitable evidence base to really make those decisions. So we really hope that with our monitor, but also all the live data and national AI policy initiative database that we have available at the OECD AI Observatory will help you do that, and to make more evidence-based policy that's also more explainable to everyday people like us. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? We have 50 seconds left, so if there's anybody with a quick question. Just shout.
Yes.
Repeat. Hi, thank you for the presentation.
Yeah,
I was wondering, how can you make sure that companies are taking a diverse group of people when training the data to create these machine learning algorithms and not discriminating people that are not representative of the society?
Yes, so in general, of course, when creating trustworthy AI, a public-private alliance is key. And we really hope that with our initiatives, we can help companies as well. So actually, as an example, we have another project called the Catalog of Tools that collects all of these tools that is currently available, mostly developed by the private sector for themselves, but also they made it publicly available to create more fair systems, and this includes the development process, right? So, for example, a checklist of what to look out for when creating an AI algorithm, and how can we ensure that the data that is being used and the developers are as diverse as possible. So we really try to help with the observatory to give these resources to not just governments, but to companies as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Orshi. It was fantastic learning about your work, especially as you stepped up today at the last minute to replace Karim, who leads the unit. So thank you, Orshi. Next up is Andrew Parker, who leads the Degrees Initiative. Andy, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to talk to you today about solar radiation modification, shortened to SRM. This is the proposal that we might be able to reduce some of the worst impacts of global warming by reflecting away some sunlight back out into space. And I know it sounds like science fiction. It is being taken increasingly seriously by scientists, by policymakers who are trying to understand what our options may be if we fail to get our greenhouse gas emissions under control. And the leading SRM proposal is stratospheric aerosol injection. This would involve spraying sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, replicating the cooling effect of volcanoes, creating a mist that will reflect away a small amount of inbound sunlight. This, I think it's fair to say, is the most controversial area of climate policy. Inherently, it's a global technology, so no country could opt out if someone chose to use it. It's potentially very helpful. It's potentially very, very harmful. It could be helpful in that it's the only known way to quickly stop or reverse the rise in global temperatures. It may therefore prove the only way to stay below 2°C of warming if we don't stop emitting carbon. It could be totally disastrous. It could have horrible physical side effects. It could distract governments from the crucial business of cutting emissions. It could cause conflict between nations if there is disagreement over where to set the global thermostat. So I hope you can see the stakes are high. Nowhere are the stakes higher than in the global south, where the countries typically are most vulnerable to the effects of global warming. If SRM works really well, if SRM can reduce the impacts of global warming, then the climate vulnerable countries of the global south have got the most to gain. If it all goes wrong, then it will hit the global south hardest. And so that is the basic situation that we are dealing with. It matters more to the global south, but in the world as it is at the moment, the countries with the largest research budgets, the rich countries of the global north, are going to race away in terms of research and expertise. And this is the situation that the NGO that I run, the Degrees Initiative, tries to address. It's our mission to build the capacity of developing countries to evaluate SRM geoengineering. We're neutral on it. We do not seek to promote it or inherently to oppose it, but we think that the climate vulnerable countries of the global south should be central to research, discussion, evaluation, and one day to the decision to implement or to reject this controversial idea. We work through three methods. We run workshops to bring new voices into the conversation. We do community building exercises to build South-South and South-North cooperation. But our real game-changing contribution is the Degrees Modeling Fund, the DMF. This was the project that was selected as one of the scale-up projects of last year's Paris Peace Forum. And through the Modeling Fund, we support teams of researchers in the Global South who want to research and understand how sunlight reflection, how SRM could affect their regions. To give you an idea of how groundbreaking, how important the Modeling Fund has been, it's supported the first SRM research projects in South America, the Caribbean, in Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. None of these areas were researching SRM before we started this up. We're going to announce another 16 research projects in the next month, a social science research project next year. I'll finish with the thought that there is nothing, there's not a foregone conclusion that developing countries are going to be the passive recipients of SRM decisions made in the global north. If we maintain a sense of ambition, we can put developing countries at the center of this issue before there are really hard decisions to make. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy.
certainly it sounds like science fiction for me. But I would like to, first of all, ask you, you're a scale-up, you were selected and as a scale-up project. What makes it different to your project to be supported by the PPF community?
So yeah, this time last year we were selected as a scale-up project to the Peace Forum. At that stage we had 2.1 staff and we were utterly overwhelmed, had no idea what we were doing. We were a project housed at other NGOs. A year later we're an independent NGO established in the UK, 9 staff. We still have no idea what we're doing, but we are doing our best, and it was all thanks to the support of the Paris Peace Forum, the mentors Matt, Paulina and Michelle, who were able to give us advice on people to contact to get bank accounts as we started up as a new project, how to select a COO, who in the WMO we might talk to make connections in Central America. So the Paris Peace Forum has been an essential part of our journey for the last year.
Thank you for the commitment and the work that you're doing. My question is, you mentioned the various stakeholders you all are engaging with. I am guessing this is very top level, right? Like policymakers, thinkers, scientists. Is there some sort of consideration to make this more bite-sized, educational sort of format that the layman can understand as a lawyer? I often think about how the people can have access to this, especially with the young climate movement. This is conversation I've not really heard diversified within that space. I'm curious to know, when you're talking about citizen mobilization, if there's that consideration on how to talk about the work that you're doing.
Great question and an important topic. So before we launched the Modelling Fund, we spent 7 years doing engagement research around the Global South, going and introducing the topic, not saying we're for it or against it, but listening to what local people working on climate change had to say about it. And the 2 topics that came up most often, first was the need for research in the Global South. People said they wanted local researchers to research the local impacts. The second thing that came up was this need to have much broader input, so to produce educational materials, to go out and talk to people studying climate change at university or at schools, or go and talk to farmers and fishermen. What work are they doing? So we've taken on the first task, the production of the knowledge through the research fund. But the second part of that, the producing educational materials, is something that the scientists that we support in West Africa and South America and Southeast Asia, it's something they're really interested in taking up next. So first physical science, add social science to that, then educational materials to start bringing this conversation to a wider group.
Thanks, Andy. We have one question from the audience back here. We'll spread the questions around a little bit.
Thank you. I actually have 2 questions. One is, you keep saying Global South. What does that mean exactly? Can you quantify that a little bit? And secondly, isn't it also important to include the scientific and research community all around the globe, because it's not only some countries that are going to be facing the issues out of heat. I mean, the kind of heat wave we've seen in parts of Europe have been pretty unprecedented as before. So isn't it important for understanding to be global in that sense?
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, so in terms of Global South, our partners for the last decade have been TWAS, the World Academy of Sciences, or the Academy of Sciences for the Developing World, and we really follow their lead in terms of the countries that we work in. In some ways, we have the luxury of being able to cast the net very broadly. Until we started the research fund, as I mentioned, there was no SRM research on most continents around. So we support research projects in LDCs, Bangladesh and Benin, right up to Argentina and Chile. It's just because there's been no research in these areas before. In terms of the need for a global conversation, I couldn't agree more. That's why we're doing the work that we do. We're trying to rebalance expertise from the global north to the global south. And indeed, the leading SRM experts in the global north believe in our mission. A dozen of the leading SRM scientists volunteer their time to us for free to work with their colleagues around the world to help build this expertise and build these communities that we hope gives us a slightly increased chance of handling this issue equitably and on an evidence basis.
Thank you so much, Andy. Congratulations. I'll just take this opportunity for a plug. The Paris Peace Forum is also contributing to the global conversation on some of these with the Climate Overshoot Commission, which we launched this year. There's a panel about this, and there's a roundtable where some of the commissioners can hear views from civil society and other people who are here at the forum. But thanks very much, Andy. Next up is Worknesh Mekonnen Gonet, who's here from UNOPS and is going to talk about their COVID response in East Africa. Welcome, and over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Worknesh Mekonnen. I'm from United Nations Office for Project Services. It's very interesting to hear the diversity of the topics, and now I'm going to take us down to the basic level from AI to all sorts of cities and climate-related issues. The topic I'm going to cover is specifically focusing on the capacity of marginalized cross-border communities in Eastern Horn of Africa, in 7 countries, who were really critically challenged with a compounded effect of all the problems they have, starting from climate challenge to infrastructure challenge to COVID-19 challenge at the end of the day. So on how they were able to deal with the shock of COVID-19 challenge as a lack of health systems, infrastructure overall in terms of these particular communities. So in these communities, what we tried to do is to really see on how, while we're trying to address the issue of the crisis on COVID-19, what kind of thing we can do in terms of addressing their long-term challenge in ensuring sustainable solutions in health systems. So that's what we tried to do in this particular one. How did we try to leverage in the resources that were available for us in creating a standardized approach to address their issues that can also cater for their current need as well as for their future needs? We tried to address a multi-sectoral approach, multi-partner approach, and a very serious coordination in 7 countries, 400 activities, and 55 sites in the most remote areas in Eastern Horn African countries of the 7 countries in IGAD member state countries. You can imagine the complexity and the need in terms of providing a proper project management structure and a resource management, and including remote monitoring of projects that we are implementing on the ground. So I can say in a very short period of time, in less than 2 years, we were able to avail all the short-term needs of the PPE kits, the ambulances, the mobile labs that those communities that are in desperate needs of this type of services needed, including to the rehabilitation and renovation of failing infrastructure, health infrastructure in those places, and as well as providing available resources to ensure there are isolation centers, because those are very, very critical, important areas. So in a nutshell, what we were able to achieve in this short period of time is to make sure that we will not be having crisis that will be caused by COVID-19 in terms of days rates that has significantly reduced. We ensure that there are health access for those remote communities in the cross-border, for them to be able to get the support that they required in that crisis time, to ensure that trade is facilitated, because for those cross-border communities, getting stuck because of COVID-19, not to move around in the cross-border and facilitate their trade need was very critical for that moment. So it was very important for us to address the trade corridor is opened and the critical needs on that short time is addressed for them to continue in their social and economic needs in that environment. Therefore, in this particular context, we were able to address in a very short period of time both the short-term and the long-term in a very reactive approach. If we can stand together in solidarity to address, as we talk on AI, as we talk on cities, on this kind of poorly marginalized communities in a much more proactive manner, in addressing health system needs in those communities, we could have addressed much more issues proactively. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Worknesh. Good reminder. Over to Edna and Chris.
Congratulations. I'm sure your intervention make a difference in an emergency. But my question is, if you are going to live when the project finish, if you are going to live in all these countries and in all these frontiers, capabilities, a governance structure, capabilities that make them permanent. Am I clear?
No. If you are going to leave, you said this
structural capacity. The project has an end. Are you going to be permanently, or the project has some ending date?
Oh, yeah. In this particular project, yes, we do have an ending date for this one.
So-
But we're trying to work on permanent health system strengthening capacity
that is
for
my
those
question. That is
communities.
my question.
Yes.
You know, because you attend an emergency, but also I heard you want to leave capabilities.
Exactly, yes. In a proactive manner, instead of just being reactive about the situation and crisis, because these are very vulnerable and marginalized communities, if you don't have a proactive approach in health system strengthening for those communities in a continuous base, you will not be able to address the issues in the long term, because crises are not going to stop. It's going to increase. And it's going to be worse in those kind of marginalized, compounded challenge communities that are challenged with compounded issues around them. We need to have a proactive approach to support them. So my ask is that we need to stand in solidarity to support those communities to ensure that we provide a lasting solution in health system strengthening.
Thank you.
Thank you. This work is actually close to my heart. I'm curious to know, because I read all the words, mitigation, gender-based violence, access. I still don't understand how is it actually happening. So for example, during COVID-19, we had to shut down our operations because even we take usually women to safe homes. The safe homes were shut down because they were not taking any more women inside. So the police was not able to, we had to send women back to the homes where they were being abused. So I am just curious to understand, when you say access, when you say mitigation, like what is the concrete steps that's been done? And the biggest problem we've always found is directing of finances. So how are you ensuring that the money is directly going not to state agents, but to the frontline workers?
Exactly. I think one of the components that we introduced in this project is the health component in terms of addressing the issue of gender-based violence. So we created a one-stop shop where the woman can come and get services, be it financial, emotional, psychological, and also in terms of abuse that has been caused, also service that needed to be a psychosocial support overall. So one of the components in this project is to provide a one-stop shop service for gender-based violence in the particular communities of the area. Yeah.
Do you have another question, Anna?
Yes, in this gender focus, have you been successful with violence against women? Do you have indicators that can tell us the project has been successful?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, just because 4 minutes is always not fair in terms of providing. So I think one of the things that we've done, as I told you, we used a lot of technology in remote monitoring of project impact for all the implementing partners as well as ourselves as oversight of the project. So we were able to provide online live data information in terms of project progress. So that's how we were able to monitor the project online. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ruknesh. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So again, a reminder, because I see some people joining in the audience, you can support project leaders. You can go on this online form, enter this code, and give your email and whatever help you want to offer to the people who are pitching their solutions on stage. Next up is Thierry Lefrançois from CIRAD, who's going to tell us about the PRESOD initiative, preventing the emergence of zoonotic diseases. Welcome, Thierry.
Thank you. Hello to everyone. So the COVID-19 crisis highlighted many gaps in terms of health governance, in terms of surveillance of emergence of the diseases, and in terms of understanding of interaction between biodiversity, climate change, and health. And we consider that there is a need for better surveillance and cost-effective surveillance, cost-efficiency surveillance. There is a need for more prevention, not only preparation, not only management of the crisis, but prevention. Prevention is trying to work on the indicators that would lead to the emergence of the diseases. So we consider to do that, we need improvement of all the actors of the surveillance of emergence, all the actors including the communities, not only official surveillance system, but all the communities, all the non-profit organizations. And we need also a One Health approach. One Health is interaction between human health, animal health, and environment. And the more you want to work on prevention, the more you need a One Health approach. We need also science-based activity. And Prezode is a science-based initiative. It was launched during the One Planet Summit in 2021, and it was launched to try to coordinate the understanding of interaction between health, biodiversity, and emergence. It is so far a co-building process with involvement of more than 2,000 people around the world in different regions of the world to try to identify the gaps in surveillance of emergence. And so far we have worked and we have involved more than 170 partners, organizations, international organizations from more than 50 countries, and they are starting to work on identification of the gaps, identification of the knowledge that are needed to prevent zoonotic disease to happen. So the first project that were developed and funded by the French Ministry of Research and the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs enabled the development of activities, for example, in Cameroon, Cambodia, and 3 other countries. And activities are dealing with surveillance of disease, including the deep understanding of the factors that would lead to an emergence. So what do we need now? We need more partners. We need more people to be engaged in this initiative, to provide data, but not only to provide data, to work with other people and other actors of surveillance. We need also some more funding for developing activities in the southern countries, and not only in the northern countries for surveillance and pandemic initiative. And we need to reinforce the synergies between different initiatives over the world, synergies between initiatives that are going from the ground and initiatives that are going from the top management and the World Health Organization, for example, or the wildlife agencies, and etc. So we need interaction, bottom-up action, and we need to establish link with and collaboration with all the actors of surveillance. So please join the initiative, work with us, participate to the secretariat, or fund the activities in the south. And this will help for the future of the pandemic emergence. Thank you.
Thierry, I would like to understand a little bit better which are the actors of this surveillance network. Which are of them? If you can name it. And I have another question. Can you describe a specific response of Prezode in an emergency infection disease or animal origin? Do you have already have a response to an emergency?
Okay. Yes, so the actors of the surveillance system are very numerous and very diverse. We have the public itself, we have the professional, medical doctors, veterinarians, pharmacists, and breeders, and so the people in the field, you know. But you have also people engaged in official surveillance system from the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Health. So all these people need to work together. We do not need only official system, but we need public-private partnership to be able to do a good governance surveillance system, obviously. And we have been engaging as a research organization in many parts of the world within regional health system and being able to intervene in emerging diseases emergence. For example, I would say Rift Valley fever in Indian Ocean, which is a zoonotic disease. That means that it's a disease of animals that can be transmitted to human, and which is transmitted also through mosquitoes. So we have been engaged together between human health services, animal health services, and people in the field working together, not only to intervene during the crisis, but trying to make some capacity building with all the breeders and all the people who are the first line before the emergence of a disease.
Félicitations, Thierry. It's not at all easy to build any coalition of even 10 people. I don't know how you managed 150 people. So congratulations on the coalitions that you've already managed to build. You highlighted that you all have already discovered some gaps in the system. If you could speak more about any of the gaps that you have discovered and what is the work you're doing to address that.
Yeah, okay. We have already identified several gaps. The main one is the need for bottom-up approach and the involvement of all the actors, as I said. The second one is the development of indicators that will enable us to understand the very start of an emergence. I would give an example, trying to map the vegetation change in a place with IT, for example, which will explain before the modification of an interaction between a pathogen, other microorganisms, animals, humans, before the change of interaction and the risk of transmission of a pathogen from wildlife to domestic animals and human, we could have indicators like indirect indicators, so vegetation index, for example, loss of biodiversity, and etc., that will guide us towards the prevention of the emergence and the transmission to human at the end of the day.
Thank you, Thierry, for all the work you do to keep us safe from health threats. Congratulations. Again, a reminder for people in the audience, if you want to offer any support to any of the project leaders today, use that link and share your email and we'll pass it on. Last but not least is David Wright joining us. David is CEO of the Southwest Grid for Learning Trust, and he's here to talk about his Stop NCII initiative. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much. So, my name is David Wright. I'm CEO of the UK charity SWGFL and also a director of the UK Safe Internet Centre, which we've been for the last 10 years. We're one of 32 European Safe Internet Centres. And a number of things that we do is we operate helplines. In fact, we operate 3 helplines who, in the UK, who directly or indirectly support victims of online harms. And one example of that is the Revenge Porn Helpline. So in this context, we support adults who are victims of non-consensual intimate image abuse, or is more commonly heard in the media, which is revenge porn, which is a terrible title, but that's how we know that people find the support that the helpline does. We are facing an escalating number of calls. In 2019, we responded to 1,600 cases. That rose to 3,200 in 2020 and 4,400 in 2021, just in the UK alone. And that's why a year ago we launched Stop NCII, so an online platform. Now this is aimed at those who are being threatened with having your own intimate images shared. So perhaps your relationship's broken down, you've shared intimate images, and those images have been threatened to be posted on social media in revenge. Equally, through extortion. Perhaps you've had your images hacked out of iCloud or out of another online platform and then been extorted for money. You are essentially powerless, and I wish you to think about that. So from a helpline's perspective, 4% of all those that we support, so last year that was 176, are suicidal. The catastrophe that this befalls their lives in terms of work, society, can be measured, but is immeasurable, essentially. Stop NCII is the world's first device-side hashing technology, and it works by going to the website. If you have a copy of your image, you never share your image, but on your device, you create a code, what's called a hash, like a fingerprint for that particular image or video. That then code, not the image, then goes to Stop NCII, and then we then send that on to initially Facebook and Instagram, which we've been doing for the last year. And that prevents anyone in the world from uploading that particular image on Facebook or Instagram, and hopefully there'll be many more platforms following the Paris Peace Forum and your intervention as well. So what it does is when we are facing people, someone's threatening to post my image, what can I do? It's a really simple response now. You visit Stop NCI, create a hash, create this fingerprint, that will then prevent that image from being uploaded onto social media. So, like I say, it just restores the power in the hands of the victim. There is something you can do in those particular circumstances. And so anywhere in the world, we spent the last year converting it into 15 languages, and we expect before Christmas to add another 2. We've been like this, a number of awards that Stop NCI, given it is the world's first device-side hashing technology. We are also following in the footsteps of some of the existing technologies that manage illegal content online, like child sex abuse content and terrorist content. So it's a well-trodden path. We're now just applying it in this context to adults who indeed are subject to non-consensual intimate image abuse.
Thanks so much, David.
Impressive, David. Sorry. Impressive, David. I have 2 questions. You just said that the platforms include Facebook and Instagram. Have you approached other platforms? And my second question is currently the project limited to the UK, or it tries to be replicated worldwide? Plans, suggestions?
So those 2 questions. Yes, today it is Facebook and Instagram. We've got conversations with a number of platforms, many of which are here today, which are really encouraging, and the kind of progress. So that is our aim right at the moment, to extend it to as many platforms as we possibly can. The more platforms we can get on board, the more we can reduce the fear for those particular victims. Is it just UK? Not at all. So we're working with a network of 78 different partners across the world. Indeed, if any of you do work with adults in this particular context, we would love to hear from you. What we're trying to do, where somebody from a different country, or any country, goes to use Stop NCI, we can then direct them into support where they can obtain that in their own country. So we're really keen to hear from any of you working, let's say, with adults and this sort of content as well. And the contact details, so stopnci.org, contact details are all there. Please do reach out.
So if any of you are working in this field, go to Menti, enter this code, share your email, and we'll put you in touch with David.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you for this work. I wanted to ask you 2 specific questions. What is the law enforcement angle that you're looking at when it comes to this? Because having worked in this space for a long time, across the world, it's the law enforcement angle, because these are inherent crimes that you're mentioning, is the biggest hiccup, because you're essentially going to be subject to this aspect of you should have known better attitude. Second thing is, what is the response rate? So you report this to Facebook, Instagram, say Meta offices. What is the response rate by the time they take the content down? Have you got an average on the response rate?
Okay, so 2 questions there. Law enforcement. Again, I can talk about the UK specifically. What we tend to do in the UK is spend a lot of time coaching victims around how to report content, or indeed if they have reported it to the police, the response they've got, as you say, is usually, well, why do you take it in the first place? Which is no help at all. And so the response, we would always encourage any form, particularly ministries, interior ministries, those that are managing with law enforcement, that they should be doing much more with law enforcement around the response in this particular case. It's usually pretty poor. Certainly worked with UN Women. I was quite shocked to find the UK was being used as a great example about how law enforcement was trained, because we know that doesn't go on at all. In terms of response rates, this is instant. So the moment that you upload a hash, that hash will then quarantine images that's uploaded a minute later.
So Facebook will essentially, the second you upload it, Facebook will take it down in a minute?
Yes.
Across the world?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever seen Trisha being so baffled. Any questions from the
Listen,
audience?
I receive death threats and they take over a month to respond.
Question from the audience here. And it'll be the last question of this session, then we'll conclude.
I'm wondering if any reshare of the image or screenshot is taken down as well.
Yeah, so which is a great question. And what we will always tend to do to victims is to encourage them to hash every single version, particularly of videos. So whether you've got a JPEG or you've got a PNG or you've got a screenshot, is to hash each and every version just to make sure, because they may well have a slightly different hash code for each of those particular images or videos. So to do everything.
Thank you so much, David.
Thank you.
So we've just heard from 7 amazing project leaders, a number of which have been part of the Scale Up program, and others who have joined us and the Paris Peace Forum community this year. What do you make of it? Edna, Trisha, what are your thoughts?
You know, I'm really impressed about the quality, the depth, and the impact of all of your projects. I really want all of them to be winners, to be selected. But if, you know, Paris Peace Forum community is done to make all your dreams, your aspiration possible. So I really want you find in this community what you need to see your projects being successful. I am very, very proud of all of you and of being part of the Paris Peace Forum where we can share very innovative and very useful proposals. And I think it is the main future of this forum is to hear your proposals and the vitality of innovation communities, of civil society, of international organizations. So I think this world is going to change with your participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edna.
Firstly, thank you to all of you for not just doing the work that you all are doing, but also taking the time to come here and educate us on the work that you're doing. So thank you really for that. I want to catch all of you individually. To the people watching, please, we have all of their information. Please figure out how you can get in touch with them. Ask the Secretariat. We will get you in touch with them with any sort of support that you could provide. That will be instrumental. Thank you, Robin, and your entire team. Leia, we have a few of you here for the amazing work the Secretariat does. Robin is known to be very bullish to make sure project leaders are placed across the 2 days of the forum and to get to lobby for you. You have the best advocate here. So thank you. And truly, even closed-door conversations that we have at the Elysee with President Macron and with our stakeholders, we keep reminding them, and they keep reminding us, that the substance for the 2 days of the forum is brought by the project leaders and the work you do. And it is you that help us continue the legacy over the years and also not stop the work tomorrow. So I just want to come back to thank you for bringing substance to the forum, and thank you for reminding us of the work and impact the forum can have outside these sanitized walls. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Edna and Trisha. It's amazing to have your support in supporting some of these project leaders. Thanks to all the project leaders who came to showcase their work last year, this year. As Trisha rightly said, you fill the forum with substance, you fill us all with hope, and we hope that your time here has been of use. And thanks also to all the Scale Up mentors and to our team at the Secretariat for all the work they do to support these initiatives. This session is now over. You can discover our 10 new Scale Up projects in the closing ceremony at the end of the day. Thanks very much.